Breaking news that's sending shockwaves through the wrestling world. Reports are flooding in that Triple H may have been fired after Gunther defeated John Cena, and the fan backlash has been nuclear. What we just uncovered will leave you speechless. Don't go anywhere. What's going on, Suplex Rumble family? Welcome back to the channel where we bring you the hottest wrestling news, the most controversial storylines, and the unfiltered truth about what's happening behind the curtain. If you're new to the Rumble Nation, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this story is exploding by the minute. Today, we're breaking down the reports about Triple H's status with WWE, Gunther's massive victory over John Cena, and the fan revolt that may have changed everything. Let's dive in. Alright, Rumble Nation, let's start from the beginning because this situation is layered. Recently, we witnessed what was supposed to be a dream match: John Cena vs. Gunther, the ring general. On paper, this is the kind of match that wrestling fans wait years to see. You've got the 16-time world champion, the face of WWE for 2 decades, going up against the most dominant intercontinental champion in modern history. The build-up was intense. Both superstars brought their A-game on the microphone. Gunther talked about representing the future of wrestling while respecting Cena's legacy. Cena fired back with passion, saying he had plenty left in the tank and wasn't ready to be written off by the next generation. The storyline was perfect. Then came match night. The atmosphere was electric. Fans were on their feet, cameras flashing, social media buzzing with predictions. Would Cena prove he's still got it? Would Gunther continue his reign of dominance? The tension was palpable. The match itself was incredible from a technical standpoint. We saw Cena dig deep into his playbook, hitting signature moves, showing that veteran instinct that's made him a legend. Gunther, meanwhile, showcased that brutal European style, those devastating chops that echoed through the arena, power slams that shook the ring, and that unbreakable will that's defined his entire championship run. Back and forth they went, each man refusing to stay down, kicking out of finishers, the crowd going absolutely insane with every near fall. This was storytelling at its finest. And then, it happened. Gunther hit his finishing sequence, the referee counted to 3, and the ring general stood victorious over John Cena. The match was over, Gunther's hand was raised, and immediately, the wrestling world erupted. But here's where things went sideways fast. Within minutes of that 3 count, social media exploded like nothing we've seen in years. And I'm not talking about normal post-match discussion, I'm talking about a full-scale fan revolt. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, YouTube comments, every platform was flooded with angry fans expressing their frustration. Hashtags started trending worldwide. We're talking millions of impressions, thousands of posts per minute, and the temperature was hot. Now, let's be clear about something: this wasn't just casual disappointment. This was visceral, emotional reaction from fans who felt genuinely hurt by the outcome. Many fans saw this as disrespectful to John Cena's legacy, especially during what many believe is his farewell tour. The comments ranged from, "How could they let Cena lose like this?" to "This is the worst booking decision in years," to "Triple H has completely lost touch with what fans want." The criticism was relentless. Fan communities that normally debate respectfully were in complete agreement. They were not happy. Wrestling podcasters started emergency episodes. YouTube channels pivoted their scheduled content to address the controversy. This was a full-blown crisis in the fan community. Some fans argued that Cena deserved better treatment given his decades of service to the company. Others felt that having him lose to Gunther during his retirement run was tone-deaf and disrespectful. The emotional investment fans have in Cena's legacy came pouring out all at once. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Some fans started directing their anger not just at the booking decision, but specifically at Triple H as head of creative. Posts started appearing saying things like, "Triple H needs to go," and "Bring back the old regime." The criticism was personal and pointed. Petitions started circulating. Some fans organized campaigns to voice their displeasure. Comment sections under WWE's official posts were flooded with negative reactions. Trending topics were dominated by criticism. The company was facing a public relations nightmare. And in the middle of all this chaos, reports started emerging that sent shockwaves through the entire wrestling industry. This is where our story takes a dramatic turn, Rumble Nation. According to multiple reports from wrestling news outlets and insider sources, the backstage atmosphere after the match was tense. The magnitude of the fan backlash was apparently unexpected, and emergency meetings were called immediately. Now, here's where we need to be very careful and very clear: we're talking about reports, not confirmed facts. In wrestling journalism, it's crucial to distinguish between verified information and speculation. What we know is that multiple sources began reporting that Triple H's position as head of creative was in jeopardy. Some reports suggested that board members were unhappy with the fan reaction and the negative publicity surrounding the match result. Other reports claimed that internal discussions were happening about creative direction and leadership. The exact details vary depending on the source, but the theme was consistent: something big was happening behind the scenes. The most explosive report claimed that Gunther himself had confronted management about the backlash, arguing that he shouldn't be blamed for doing his job and winning a match he was booked to win. According to these reports, Gunther was frustrated that fans were directing anger at him instead of the creative team that made the decision. Other reports went even further, suggesting that there were heated discussions about whether the match should have gone differently, whether Cena should have won, and who was ultimately responsible for approving the finish. The backstage drama was apparently reaching a boiling point. Then came the most shocking report of all, the one that's got everyone talking. Multiple sources began claiming that Triple H had either been fired, suspended, or removed from his creative duties. The exact wording varied, but the implication was clear: there had been a major change in leadership. Social media went into overdrive. Wrestling fans, journalists, and even former wrestlers started weighing in on the reports. Some people were shocked, others were skeptical, and everyone had an opinion. But here's where we need to pump the brakes and think critically, Rumble Nation. Alright, let's take a step back and analyze this situation with clear heads, because in the age of social media and instant news, it's crucial to separate verified facts from speculation and rumor. First, let's talk about what we know for certain. John Cena and Gunther had a match. Gunther won the match. There was significant fan backlash on social media. Various wrestling news outlets reported on backstage reactions. Now, here's what we don't know for certain: whether Triple H was actually fired, suspended, or removed from any position, whether any formal disciplinary action took place, what specific conversations happened behind closed doors, what WWE's actual long-term plans are. This is important, Rumble Nation. In wrestling media, reports can range from confirmed facts to educated speculation to complete fabrication. Not all sources are equally reliable, and not all information that gets reported turns out to be accurate. Let's think about this logically. Triple H isn't just head of creative, he's married to Stephanie McMahon, daughter of Vince McMahon, and is a key executive in the entire WWE corporate structure. The idea that he would be fired over one match result, even with significant backlash, seems unlikely given his position and influence within the company. Furthermore, creative decisions in WWE are rarely made by one person alone. There are multiple executives, producers, and team members involved in booking decisions. Blaming one individual for a controversial outcome oversimplifies how the creative process actually works. It's also worth considering that controversial booking decisions aren't new to wrestling. Throughout history, there have been finishes that fans hated, and very rarely did they result in executives being fired. WWE has weathered much bigger controversies than this. So what might actually be happening? Well, there are several possibilities. These reports could be completely false, manufactured for clicks and engagement. There could be legitimate backstage discussions happening, but they've been exaggerated in reporting. WWE could be working everyone with a storyline that blurs reality and fiction. There could be real creative tensions, but no actual firings or removals. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. There's likely some truth to the reports of backstage discussions and reactions, but the most extreme claims are probably exaggerated or misinterpreted. Let's zoom out and look at what this controversy really tells us about modern wrestling fandom and the relationship between promotions and their audiences. First, this situation highlights how passionate wrestling fans are. The fact that a match result can generate this level of emotional response shows that people genuinely care about these characters and storylines. That passion is what makes wrestling special, even when it manifests as criticism. Second, it demonstrates the power of social media in modern wrestling. 20 years ago, fan reactions were limited to crowd noise and maybe some message board posts. Today, fans can collectively voice their opinions instantly and globally. This changes the dynamics of how companies interact with their audience. Third, this controversy raises interesting questions about booking philosophy. Should WWE always give fans what they want, or should they sometimes tell stories that challenge expectations? Should legends always win during their farewell tours, or can they put over younger talent? These are legitimate creative debates with no easy answers. From a storytelling perspective, having Gunther beat John Cena actually makes sense. Gunther is positioned as the future of the company, and beating a legend solidifies his credibility. In traditional wrestling booking, having the younger star go over is how you build the next generation. But from an emotional perspective, fans have invested decades in John Cena. He represents their childhood, their teenage years, their introduction to wrestling. Seeing him lose, especially during what might be his final run, feels personal and painful. Both perspectives are valid. This also touches on the larger conversation about part-time versus full-time wrestlers, legacy versus future, nostalgia versus progression. WWE is trying to balance respecting the past while building toward the future, and that balance is difficult to achieve. What's fascinating is how this controversy might actually be good for business. People are talking about WWE, engaging with content, debating creative decisions, and staying emotionally invested. Even negative publicity keeps the product in the cultural conversation. The reports about Triple H, whether true or exaggerated, demonstrate that fans hold creative leadership accountable for the product. They care about who's making decisions and why. That level of engagement, even when critical, shows that WWE still matters to people. Alright, Rumble Nation, let's bring this home with some final thoughts and predictions about where this situation goes from here. First, my prediction on the Triple H situation: I do not believe he's been fired or removed from his position. I think these reports are either exaggerated or completely fabricated. Triple H has too much institutional power and too much invested in WWE's future to be removed over one controversial match result. However, I do believe there were likely discussions backstage about the fan reaction. WWE monitors social media closely, and when something trends negatively, they pay attention. There probably were conversations about whether the booking decision was right.